As we pass through the gates and begin our walk around Xiantong Temple, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history beneath our feet. Surrounded by forested mountains and the cool air of northern China, this is one of the most important Buddhist sites in the country. For over 15 centuries, monks, emperors, pilgrims and travellers have all come here seeking wisdom, enlightenment, or simply a moment of peace. And today, we're joining them. Welcome to Xiantong Temple, the oldest and largest temple on Mount Wutai. Mount Wutai itself is no ordinary mountain. Rising from the province of Shanxi, it is one of the 4 sacred mountains of Chinese Buddhism and is revered as the earthly home of Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom. According to Buddhist tradition, Manjushri represents insight, understanding, and enlightenment. For well over 1,000 years, believers have travelled extraordinary distances to these mountains, hoping to draw closer to that wisdom. The mountain's name means 5 Terrace Mountain, a reference to the 5 flat-topped peaks that surround this sacred landscape. Unlike China's jagged mountain ranges, these peaks rise gently and majestically, creating an environment that feels peaceful and timeless. And at the heart of this spiritual world stands Xiantong Temple. Origins stretch all the way back to the 1st century AD. The temple was founded during the Eastern Han Dynasty, traditionally dated to around the year 68 AD. That makes it one of the earliest Buddhist temples in China, established at a time when Buddhism itself was only beginning to spread eastward from India along the Silk Roads. Imagine China then. The Roman Empire ruled much of Europe. The city of London was still a young Roman settlement, and here, on this mountain plateau, monks were building one of the first centres of Buddhist worship in the country. The temple was originally known as the Great Fuling Vulture Peak Temple, named after Vulture Peak in India, where the Buddha is said to have preached many of his teachings. Over centuries, the name changed several times before eventually becoming Xiantong Temple, a name meaning something close to Temple of Manifested Communication, reflecting the connection between the earthly and spiritual worlds. As we wander through these courtyards and pathways, it's worth remembering that what we see today is the result of countless reconstructions. Wood, after all, is beautiful but fragile. Fire, war and time have repeatedly damaged buildings across Mount Wutai. Dynasties rose and fell, empires collapsed, yet the temple endured. Each generation rebuilt what had been lost, preserving not only the architecture but also the spirit of the place. In many ways, Xiantong Temple is less a single building and more a living conversation between the past and the present. temple flourished during the Tang dynasty, often regarded as China's golden age. This was an era of poetry, trade and cultural exchange. Chang'an, today's Xi'an, was one of the largest cities in the world, and Buddhism was thriving throughout the empire. Pilgrims from across Asia came to Mount Wutai. Scholars debated philosophy. Monks copied sacred texts by hand. The mountain became an international centre of learning and devotion. Some travellers came from as far away as India, Tibet, Korea and Japan. Many recorded their journeys, describing the mountain as a place where heaven and earth seemed closer together. Standing here today, it's not difficult to understand why. The air feels different. The mountains rise gently in the distance. Pine trees sway in the breeze. The sound of chanting sometimes drifts across the courtyards. There is a stillness here that encourages reflection. Over the centuries, Xiantong Temple received the patronage of emperors. The rulers of the Ming and Qing dynasties, in particular, invested heavily in Mount Wutai. Imperial donations funded repairs, expanded the monastery and enhanced its prestige. Emperors saw themselves not only as political rulers, but also as guardians of spiritual harmony. Supporting sacred sites such as this helped reinforce that role. The Qing emperors had a particularly strong connection to Mount Wutai. Several made pilgrimages here themselves. One emperor in particular, the Qianlong Emperor, visited numerous times during the 18th century. He was fascinated by Buddhism and deeply admired the mountain's spiritual significance. His visits brought further attention and resources to the temples of Mount Wutai, helping ensure their survival into the modern era. But while emperors left their mark, it is the countless ordinary pilgrims who perhaps define Xiantong Temple most. For centuries, people have climbed these mountains carrying prayers. Some came seeking health, others sought forgiveness. Many simply wanted guidance during difficult times. Imagine the scenes here 1,000 years ago. Pilgrims arriving after weeks or months of travel. Horses and carts parked outside the temple grounds. Monks greeting weary visitors. The smell of incense filling the mountain air. At dawn, bells echoing across the valleys. At dusk, candles flickering softly against ancient walls. Generation after generation repeating the same rituals. And in many ways, that rhythm continues today. Modern visitors arrive by car or coach rather than horseback. Smartphones replace scrolls. But people still come searching for something, a sense of peace, a connection to history, or perhaps simply a quiet moment away from the noise of everyday life. Mount Wutai is unusual because it is not only sacred to Chinese Buddhism, it is also revered within Tibetan Buddhism. Over centuries, monks from different traditions lived and studied here side by side. This coexistence gave Mount Wutai a unique character. Chinese architecture blends with Tibetan influences. Different schools of Buddhist thought flourished together. The mountain became a meeting point of cultures and beliefs. That spirit of openness helped cement Mount Wutai's reputation throughout Asia. Its influence was so profound that stories of the mountain spread far beyond China's borders. Poets wrote about it. Pilgrims dreamed of visiting it. Artists painted its temples rising from mist-covered hills. Even today, millions regard Mount Wutai as one of the holiest places in Buddhism. In recognition of its cultural and spiritual importance, the mountain was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2009. The designation recognizes not only the temples themselves, but the extraordinary landscape and living traditions that have developed here over nearly 2,000 years. And that's perhaps what makes Xiantong Temple so remarkable. It isn't frozen in time. This isn't a museum. It is a living place. Monks still pray here. Pilgrims still light incense. Festivals still bring crowds to the mountain. Ancient traditions continue alongside modern life. As we continue our walk, there are moments when the centuries seem to overlap. A breeze rustles through the trees, footsteps echo across stone paths. Somewhere, a bell rings softly. And for a moment, you can imagine the pilgrims who walked here 1,000 years ago hearing exactly the same sound. So many places in the world have changed beyond recognition, yet Xiantong Temple remains connected to its origins, not because every structure is ancient, not because history has stood still, but because generation after generation has chosen to preserve the spirit of this place, a spirit of wisdom, of reflection, and of quiet perseverance. As our walk around Xiantong Temple comes to an end, one thought lingers. Empires are temporary. Dynasties fade. Even mountains slowly change. Yet ideas can endure. For nearly 2,000 years, people have climbed Mount Wutai searching for wisdom. And perhaps that search is timeless. Whether you're a believer, a history enthusiast, or simply a curious traveler, places like Xiantong Temple remind us that some journeys are not about reaching a destination. They're about taking the time to pause, to reflect, and to listen to the echoes of the past. Thank you for joining me on this walk through one of China's oldest and most sacred temples. And until next time, safe travels.